Suppose you're a historian and you have two ancient authors who discuss the same incident but tell it wildly differently. How would you decide who's telling the real version? Well, the best thing would be if you're an archaeologist and dig up some material evidence, you could use that to collaborate with one of the authors. But that's almost never the case. So you have to go with two complementary routes. One is to use circumstantial evidence and maybe analyze how likely one scenario is compared with another, knowing the state of the times. From there you can infer correlation and causation between the two. You'll also go with direct evidence or testimonial evidence and analyze that person's reliability. Use of circumstantial evidence can also help analyze reliability. If you look through one author's work and they have a lot of lies or biases or maybe just get things wrong because they were mistaken, you tend to reject their account. If both are bad, you unfortunately leave it up in the air until new evidence comes around. Luckily, these people are dead, so there's no consequence if they aren't believed when they should, just due to lack of sufficient evidence. Example of this type of thinking is well shown in the YouTube channel Knowing Better and the podcast Our Fake History. Weighing testimonial evidence and the credibility of a witness is integral to modern historians. It's also equally integral to lawyers and judges. All of this is evidence. Material evidence is the strongest evidence. If you can get it, that's awesome. But in cases of he said, she said, like pretty much all rape cases, testimonial evidence is still evidence, and pretty damn strong evidence in the eyes of the court. The right wing has been flooded with memes of zero evidence of rape, which is exactly why Trump kept Kavanaugh as opposed to letting him go for an easier Supreme Court pick, because he knew that the Russian bots and trolls and the alt-right could use this zero evidence of rape meme to fire up the disgruntled white base to vote after he killed net neutrality and attacked weed and video games. As Trevor Noah said, Donald Trump has an amazing gift of making people who are never victims feel like victims and rise up and fight against their perceived oppressors, even though they are in no way being oppressed. And making it easier to arrest real rapists would actually make women feel safer around all men. And it's worked spectacularly, showing a 10-point drop in probability of the Dems winning the House and Senate in just one day, according to 538. During the Ford-Kavanaugh testimony, Ford was precise in what she remembered and what she didn't. She gave evidence of character witnesses who could be asked how truthful she was. She never wavered or changed her story while under oath. To begin with, when Kavanaugh was just in the short list of people, most of whom were not accusable of rape, she wavered on coming out because she knew quite rightly her life would be destroyed if she came out, and she ended up having to move 3,000 miles away and still got her new location doxxed, but during testimony she never changed her story once. Kavanaugh, on the other hand, changed his story repeatedly, interrupted senators, and acted in a way no innocent person would. He got away with speaking to elected leaders in a way that no one ever should. He was confrontational and rude. He also has up to 40 character witnesses, if not more, of people who knew him who want to testify about how much he lied under oath and should not be trusted. The president refused to let the FBI interview anything but a tiny fraction of these people, so yeah, no evidence if you don't look for it. In court, the burden of proof shifts based on who has the most compelling evidence at the time. At first, the burden of proof was on Ford, and then as Kavanaugh's testimony fell apart and he was shown on public TV to shift his statements under oath and lying directly to the Senate, the burden of proof fell on him. But men are more scared of being accused of rape, even though of all rapes reported and unreported, 1.4% are falsely accused, and 40% of those never actually make it to formal complaint stage. So the man may never know. And if a woman isn't found to be the most upstanding, truthful, and honest citizen at all times, she might as well not even bother bringing charges, even if she was raped, as that's considered suspect evidence in a case of he said, she said, and she could face the legal consequences of bringing false charges. Character witnesses are evidence. Testimonial evidence is evidence. One would think with all the Matlock and court dramas that people watch, they would get that. But I guess CSI has killed all that knowledge, and people think that material evidence is the only evidence. But then again, the average American is terrible at grasping what evidence actually is, which is why at least 40% of Americans believe climate change and natural selection is a myth, and worse, many people who do believe these things are real are convinced that material evidence is the only evidence, making them the real skeptics, and therefore hold their position even more strongly. The greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, it's the illusion of knowledge. Stephen Hawking.